All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second meeting of July 2023. And Judy, if we can call the roll.
Indeed. Hausch.
I'm here.
Stokes.
Here.
McQueen.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Also present is Village Manager Jose Salmeron. Village Solicitor Amy Blankenship. Village Finance Director Amy Kemper. And Public Works Director Johnny Burns. And Planning and Zoning Administrator Meg Leatherman.
Okay. And we have one of our favorite things to do. Deja Freeman is here, and I'm going to come down. And I'm actually going to grab one of those papers from you. Because I do not have it memorized. So, yes.
It's the same every time. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I don't have it memorized either. No. You're doing great. You're doing great, Brad.
All right. So you can raise a hand if you want. And repeat after me. I solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution
I solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws of the United States
and will obey the laws of the United States
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and that I will in all respects
and that I will in all respects
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and the ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of
and will faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of
Public Arts and Culture.
Yes, exactly. All right, thank you. And I actually have one of our, yes, pins to make sure that you're like, yes, official. And Deja, like, thank you.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Love to have you in the mix. All right, yes.
Welcome.
Okay, and with that, I think we've got announcements. And Josue, I think you've got a thing or two.
I have two. One, I'd like to start off with an update. We had a terrible incident on July 4th, fatality in the village, and I personally am heartbroken by the situation, and we've reviewed the circumstances that led to that terrible accident, and we've communicated with the county officials and Parks and Trails to find ways of making that path better. While the path crossing meets all the legal requirements, we're continuing the conversations about finding ways of improving that. That includes clearing our public right-of-way and looking at a long-term plan of making improvements such as markings and rapid flashing beacon. I didn't want any further time to go without us acknowledging the incident and committing ourselves to finding improvements. That said,
Are you moving into something else? Or?
I was going to talk about Safety Village, but
Okay, so I think there are a couple things to highlight. One is that the Yellow Springs Active Transportation Plan has a concept for a protected bike lane to go out to Ellis Pond. And I personally think we should elevate that. I guess the second piece is I know there were discussions with the county about clearing out some of the, I guess, brush, for lack of a better word, and that there's some discussions around that. And I mean, I think there are, a variety of things that led to that incident, but I want to also say that we have contemplated that is an area that requires more attention and more safety, and I would like to see that be prioritized. So.
thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Along safety and safety of our residents, last week we launched our Safety Village. This is a program that the Village Council approved many months ago about providing training to school-age children on safety use of roads, crossing the streets. So we held a week-long camp, and it was very successful. We're going to provide an update with pictures for the next council meeting on that activity. But we acknowledge that there are safety trainings that we need to do with school children, and council was very supportive of that activity, and we were able to launch our week-long camp last week around Safety Village. So I appreciate the support of council on getting that off the ground. I also want to thank the police department team for coordinating and executing that, and also our community partners that helped make that possible, specifically the Freemasons who provided a financial contribution for that project.
Okay. Any other announcements?
I have sort of a public service announcement, if you will. So in this week's newspaper, hopefully everyone has seen this and knows about it. Part of a concern is that August elections are not supposed to be happening, first of all. And there are some who think there's some ulterior motive for why this one is happening. But not to pontificate too vocally, I would just remind everyone that early in-person voting has begun in Greene County. Take a look. You can, again, find this was an insert in this week's newspaper, but early voting is in effect, and I would just encourage everyone to get out and vote in August. And there's plenty of information out there to educate yourselves about the issue. So just want to encourage folks to get involved. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Kevin. And yeah, I guess I'll put it to a finer point. Vote no on issue 1. It is ridiculous that our state legislature continues to, basically deride local control, and yeah, it makes no sense. And, they think because they have a supermajority, they can do whatever they want. I think this is going to be a case where people are going to come out and show them that they need to reconsider. So I wanted to,
I put the early voting schedule up for the public's interest.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do you want to mention that we do not have a meeting on August 7th? And this is the time where we recognize Lori Asklund and, her brilliance in terms of realizing that our clerk needs a break, and probably we need a break as well. So we will not have a first meeting in August, so that probably means that August 21st will be jam-packed. I guess I also want to mention that really happy to hear about the work with the Environmental Commission around zero waste. And the other thing is, I did want to mention that for council, that we had a really nice meeting at the Clifton Mill about the collaborative dispatch today. So we had Cedarville, Jamestown there. It was, again, it continues to be affirming that that we all have shared values that we can work on together. And so we were basically trying to finalize some of the things around the MOU, and that's going to come to council at the next meeting. And so, yeah, but it was a really great meeting. And
Brian, just to raise a point, just to clarify, not to get too deep into this, but is it true that Cedarville University will also still be a part of that, and were they at the meeting?
they were not at that meeting, but they have been in the conversation.
Okay.
So, and that's a good point to bring up, because that does relate to the cost for all the entities involved.
Mm-hmm.
So it has not been an issue for Cedarville and Jamestown. if the university is not involved. But we hope they will be.
Okay.
And we've gotten like positive signals, but that has not been solidified.
Okay.
So, good question.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Mary Ann?
I'd like to go back to what Sway was talking about at the beginning of the meeting, because we've talked about making efforts to make that area safer. I did not know the young person who died, but I would like to also have some way for us to recognize him. I think it was a boy. And I don't know what that would be, but I just feel like it's important to acknowledge the person too.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay. All right.
The,
Yeah.
we can do a moment of silence now if you want. We can also present options for council.
So I want to chime in really quickly because it's time that we kind of get into this. So I'd like to introduce this new business. Probably something like public safety and traffic calming measures and elevating it. This has been something that's been discussed in the community. People have brought it to our attention. It's not just Polecat, it's Fairfield, it's Corey Street, it's Xenia Avenue, and had a meeting with Chief a couple of months back, really great ideas, and to no avail. So we have all these projects going on. We have broadband, we have solar. This needs to be elevated to a level that we have action steps. So I think that this body needs to empower a village manager to speak with everyone. The village manager needs to speak with township, county, immediately. This has gone on for way, way too long. And it's something that needs to be elevated at this point. Whatever that means, and whatever that means. And I'm, there have been ideas presented to council. I don't think anybody in the community, I know I don't, are not interested in giving any more intellectual labor to this. Something has to be done, and something has to be done immediately. In fact, it's too late. This cannot happen again.
So I was under the impression that when we talked about this in general, primarily with the Fairfield issue, I think, we were talking about our process for creating action items and whatnot, that the thought was to hand this over to staff. I don't know if anything happened formally, but was that not the case?
That was the direction that we got from council last council meeting. Mary Ann brought the issue, and there was a general agreement that administration will work on follow-up items to improve safety. Now, at that time, we were talking, to your point, Kevin, about speeding and other speeding-related issues that were brought up related to Fairfield and other areas. This area of the village, it's to Carmen's point, and her asking for us to be empowered to coordinate with the county and township. This property is outside of the village, so there's some multi-jurisdictional coordination that we will need to do there. With regards to the speeding issue, both Public Works Director and Police Chief, myself, we've been working on a variety of intervention strategies on the speeding issues. Many months ago, we identified improvement opportunities and discussion with the county engineer to make Fairfield Pike a bit easier to read the signage and making improvements. And Public Works Director got to work on clearing the public right-of-way, so we've done some of those incidents. On citations, we did do intervention strategies, and that led to more ticketing into mayor's court. There are things that we could discuss to make that more, I want to find the right words, more punitive. And we had talked about the red light cameras. One of the things that would be on the option is we can suspend our progressive citation process where we issue a warning and just go straight into citations.
Yeah, I think we should do that. I think there are a number of things that have to happen, and it's not just the village government. I think the community itself needs to, I think we need to have a safety village and a program that's not just for whatever age group kids. It needs to be for the whole village, and the village government has to play a leadership role. But hopefully there are some other groups that would also, just like we're trying to get the sidewalks together, I mean, our roads are the most dangerous thing in the village, really. People in vehicles are the most dangerous thing in this village. It's not guns, it's not, it's people driving vehicles. And however we need to make that safer, we need to do.
Communicate with who you need to communicate with. Rumble strips, better signing, and citations. There was a resident who brought this up. There used to be a time not very long ago that if you got caught speeding in this town on Polecat Road, Xenia Avenue, you were going to get a ticket. You were going to get ticketed. You're going to be here. And I understand this, we want to have a different kind of community engagement process with police. That's it. Physical barriers, physical cues, visual signs. That's it. Yes, of course we need to have a safety village, and we need to educate people. But people need to be ticketed, and there need to be traffic calming measures, not tomorrow, today. I don't understand all this talking about it, and I know that there are certain procedures that have to be followed, but I want this, and I know that a lot of our community members want this also, to be elevated above broadband right now, to be elevated above solar right now. And anything less would be incredibly disrespectful to this young man and his family, in my opinion. Don't have anything else to say about it.
So I appreciate these comments. I will say, I've been looking for council to elevate these concerns for a while. I mean, they have been in the active transportation plan. Keep in mind, like we've been talking about Fairfield, not Polecat. And I mean, the reality is we reached out to Greene County Parks and Trails about clearing out some of the again foliage or whatever that shouldn't be there, but that has been a recommendation for almost 5 years now.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I love that we're elevating this, but at the same time I mean I want to recognize that this is not that had not been an area that we had targeted before. And so, but I think it is.
Everybody who lives in town, so it didn't come to council, fine.
Yep.
But everyone who lives here and who works here knows where the problem areas are. So whether or not it got here or not, for me, it's of no consequence because of what's happened recently. Let's just try to move forward and do some physical stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Well, I think we all agree on that. And, so again, I'm not convinced that the county is going to support that activity, but I think we should. And we have a plan in the active transportation plan on how to make that area safer.
But we need the county support, right? This is not something this is not an us thing. And so the county will give us support because we will be interacting and engaging at the county level. I'm sorry. I need to stop talking about this.
I want to have that meeting with you, with our county commissioners, because we have reached out and they were not
Okay,
responsive.
okay.
So I would love
I'll
to,
go
like-
I'll go anywhere I need to go.
Yep, let's do that. Okay, and, I mean, I think the bottom line is, it's an emotional issue for all of us, and, but we have solutions that we can pursue.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll move into the consent agenda, and I guess first of all, minutes from the June 29th, 2023 special session. Can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Minutes of July 3rd, our regular session from last time. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the June credit card statements. Can I get a motion?
I
So,
move.
second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, review of the agenda. Anything we need to add, remove, or modify?
Well, we just did have a conversation, so Carmen, you still want to make that a new business item? I don't know that we could say much more here tonight, but certainly.
I mean, I think we've got an action item, right? Like, we are going to set up a meeting with Greene County Parks and Trails, and Carmen and I are going to be at that meeting, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then I don't know, I feel like, you know, what I would like to see happen is that we have some kind of communication about what's happening. Okay, like, are we going to order signs? Are we going to, you know, what are we going to do? And what is the timeline in which we're going to do it?
Yep.
So that might be an after-meeting thing, or that can be, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I will.
Yeah, well, let's plan on, I mean, it would make sense for the team to meet before we meet with
Sure.
the county.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right,
Okay.
so I mean, we could discuss that further, but I think.
Okay, yeah,
like,
we'll do it later. We can do it
let's
later.
do that,
Okay.
right? All right, so we're going to do that this week. Okay. Yeah, and again, like, I don't know, I mean, sometimes things might seem from the Diaz like, you know, a little bit stale, but yeah, it's very upsetting. Okay. All right. Kevin?
Okay, well, I was looking at another part of the agenda, and so we're down to petitions and communications. Not a lot there, but there are 3 reports from the mayor's office, one being the regular report to council, then the report on YSPD activity for the most recent period, and Mayor Pam's quarterly report to the village. And that is the extent to what we've received for petitions and communications.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. All right, so we're going to move into legislation, and I'm going to ask for, we got a couple second reads for a motion to waive reading those second reads in full.
I move that we waive the requirement to read the second readings in full.
Second. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. So Judy, let's do ordinance 2023-27 by title only.
All right, this is rezoning one parcel totaling 0.666 acres of property located at 108 Cliff Street to planned unit development, PUD, and amending the zoning map accordingly and approving the preliminary development plan.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So, Meg, are you going to go over this?
Thank you, counselors. This is a preliminary PUD application and rezone request for 108 Cliff Street. The application was submitted by Brian Drew with Macy's Creek Ventures, who owns the property. The purpose for the PUD is to allow for a mix of business and industrial uses within the property. The proposal includes repurposing the existing buildings into tenant lease spaces for multiple retail businesses and food and drink options, and covering the outdoor patio space so it could have a year-round space for people to eat and enjoy the outdoors. It would also serve as a public restroom location. The applicant has requested to have the same underlying zoning as the abutting PUD at Millworks, which is, or specifically the uses which are outlined in the council packet that was provided to you guys, which is basically a mix of the I-1 use, B2 use, and B1 uses. I will point out that the rezoning will be in line with the comprehensive plan goal for expanding the downtown business district north to the Millworks property, and will allow more flexibility for this property. May 9th, 2023, the Planning Commission found that the PUD met all 4 of the required recognizable benefits for the criteria from the Village Code. And in July 3rd, 2023, City Council held a first reading of this application and rezone request and approved the application. And tonight, this is just a required second reading. And should the City Council vote to approve the PUD, it will go back to the Planning Commission for one final public hearing and final decision. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
I think we hashed it
Straightforward.
pretty well.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to open the public hearing, and yeah, any questions or comments? I'll just mention, don't forget it's Village Council, not City Council.
Yeah.
Crying out loud.
Yeah. You're the new kid for 2 more meetings, and after that, 2 more meetings. Sure.
I got a 3-month honeymoon. She should be entitled to 4. She should
Okay,
get
you
4.
get 3 months.
Okay. Yeah. Riley?
Hi, Riley Dixon, Yellow Springs News. I hope this is appropriate, but I suppose it's more of a question for Brian. That there is some publicized buy-in to the lumberyard project. I'm curious to know how people's investments have been potentially affected by the lag time in the announcement of those buy-ins and the PUD and the project as a whole. I mean, I guess is there a timeline? Again, I hope this is appropriate, but I'm wondering if there's a timeline for the lumberyard project that could be made public.
Yeah, great question. Meg, do you have an answer to that, or?
I think it might be more appropriate for him, timeline with respect to the businesses that are going to be occupying it, I think is what he's asking. We're not really completely privy to those kind of communications. There's a timeline from now, and once the Planning Commission would approve it till after that for us administratively for the allowal of it, the use change. But when it comes to, what relationships they have, who's going to occupy that spaces, that's kind of outside of the scope of the staff.
All right, cool.
So,
Brian?
No, I think she said it.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think, from our end, we're excited to move it forward. So, yeah, great. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, and Judy, if you could call the roll.
Yes. Stokes?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McQueen?
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Yes.
Hausch?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is ordinance 2023-33, and Judy, we can do that by title only.
All right, this is an ordinance amending the village personnel policy.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Josue? Amy?
Both, yeah. Amy's coming up.
Okay.
My foot's asleep. This hasn't changed, the details of this hasn't changed since last meeting. We're making the changes based on some recommendations from the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. The only change that has been made was one that was suggested by Carmen. There was some language that was stricken through in the personnel manual, but everything else is the same as what you saw last meeting.
All right, thanks.
Any questions for me? Okay, thanks.
So I'll open a public hearing. Carmen, I appreciate your feedback on this. I guess I want to also emphasize that this is I don't know if I want to say housekeeping, but it is not an issue that involved any current staff. And so at the same time, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to be anti-racist, to like recognize like all of our like values. But this is something that was related to a past issue. So, did you want to say something, Carmen?
I mean, it's housekeeping, like it just updated the policy manual so it would be more in line with the language of the
Right.
Ohio Civil Rights, just be in line with more, just updated the language.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. And, yeah, and I think that's important. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, and Judy, if we can call the roll, please.
Yes. Brown.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Pausch.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Into resolutions 2023-52, which we can do by title only.
This is certifying delinquent water, sewer, trash, and electric bills to the auditor of Greene County, State of Ohio, for placement on the Greene County tax duplicate.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, is this Amy K?
Amy K.
One on the table, yes. Names on the back.
This one?
Yeah.
Finance Committee had a chance to review these at our last meeting. We are certifying to the county auditor a total of $6,883.64. It's about 12 accounts. And since we had met and worked on them, we've collected over $10,000 towards that. So I appreciate the effort of the landlords to come in and help us out with that. These will be certified to the county, and they will be sent on September 1. So once they go to the county, we can no longer accept payment against them, so. Questions?
Any questions?
How old are these? No, here we go. Oh, not,
Not terribly old.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yep. All right, thanks, Amy. Okay, if there are no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, and then we're going to move into Resolution 2023-53, which we can do by title only.
This is authorizing the removal of defunct and uncollectible utility account balances from the utility billing system of the Village of Yellow Springs from the years 2018 through 2022.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Amy.
This is a collection of $21,389.31 against collected accounts that we have worked and have not been able to find, mostly short-term residents that have moved out and with no landlord issue kind of thing. With the tax assessments went back to the landlords, these cannot. So this is the second pass at cleaning up the accounts payable aging, or the accounts receivable aging for utilities, and then we're going to do one more pass probably before the end of the year, and hopefully have everything cleaned up.
All right, and I appreciate Amy highlighting that, I think everyone knows that, we did pass legislation or policy around if there's a landlord associated with, not like paying the utilities, that they are responsible. But again, like you emphasized, that these are in a different So,
Yeah, these are mostly properties that were sold prior to us putting a tax assessment on it, so that current owner is not the person that incurred the utility costs.
okay.
We've done this before. Do we go back and sort of catch up on all these on a fairly regular schedule?
I think the last time we did this was 2017, if I'm not wrong. And we sent a little bit more than that. I think we sent about $10,000 to the county in 2017. It doesn't happen very often that we need to do this. We communicate with landlords whenever their tenants are either in disconnect or default phase. At the same time, we're communicating with the tenants. Some of these are a little iffy because of the COVID situation. We weren't going after accounts, and you can't go, we can't go back to the landlords after that. So that's where these are in the write-off situation, either that or the property was sold prior to.
Okay.
2019 was the last time council took action to do the tax assessments and the write-offs. Amy and the team have put together a great process to do more of internal collections so that we can keep the numbers to lower. So
Right.
they've collected over 10,000 just on the tax assessment. So
Good,
we've got good processes in place thanks to Amy and the team.
Well, good work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One, I think, that communication piece is, really important, so, yeah, thank you. Okay. Questions or comments? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolution 2023-54. You can do by title only.
All right, this is approving a revised lease agreement for Lawson Place Apartments.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. All right.
Okay.
Amy B?
Yes, the lease you had in your packet last meeting had some incorrect terms in it. When Mary Ann started asking questions about it, when council started the discussion, I realized that I was not on the same page. It was a misunderstanding, mostly on my part, of which version of the lease needed to be in front of council. This is the correct version. Everybody who needed to weigh in has weighed in. I am confident that GreenMet has it for review, because for any of our voucher recipients, GreenMet will have the ability to weigh in on our lease, so they have it for their review as well. I haven't heard back from them yet, but the changes I've made, I spoke with them over the phone. I'm confident that they will be acceptable. And this should look accurate to everyone, and tenants do not pay utilities, as pointed out by Mary Ann at last meeting. And this one is updated a little bit. There are some changes that I made to it, but it is substantially similar, very similar to the current lease that we have in place. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
So I was under the impression, and I don't know how, that in order to manage a property, you had to be a realtor. Is that not accurate? Privately owned property, I know that you don't have to be, but publicly owned property, can you look into that?
Be a realtor in order for us to...
A real estate, not a realtor, but you don't have to be a realtor like with the National Association of Realtors, but you have to be a real estate agent in order to manage property that's not privately owned and dealing with the money piece and the writing of lease agreements.
So we looked at this issue when we first bought the building. Brianne and her law firm reviewed the requirements. So if we were a property management company and providing property management services for other properties owned by other individuals other than themselves, then yes, we would need real estate license.
Even with
to do that.
municipalities?
From what I understood from Brianne at that time was that we met the legal requirements to manage our own property.
Okay.
But that Brickler Neckler has a real estate team. If council would like us to look into that again, we certainly can.
I don't feel necessarily unless we know that there's been some change in the law since the last solicitor looked at it.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we've got Resolution 2023-55. 55, which we can do by title only.
All right, this is authorizing the village manager to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission state capital improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs, and to execute contracts as required.
Can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
All right. Seems like almost that title was, you could have just read in the whole thing. All right, Josue?
I think that title says it. This is authorizing us to pursue grant opportunities and contracting relationships for the resurfacing of King Street project and King Street and Limestone Streets under the OPWC program. Johnny's available to speak to more details if you like. Johnny, did I miss anything?
Okay.
So I have a question. I mean, it is a long title, but the and/or part, I mean, are those two different programs or two different uses of the funds?
They are two different programs. Right, Johnny?
I guess I could see what
Yeah. He's referring to the title where it says, participate in the Ohio Public Works State Capital
Local,
Improvement
yes.
and/or local, so it's two separate programs.
Correct.
Okay. So we'll do both or do either, or it depends on, we'll do both? Okay.
Get what we can get.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thinking. Cool.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so citizen concerns. This is the time on the agenda where we welcome up to 3 minutes to speak on anything that's not an agenda item. Not seeing any.
Are we seeing everyone who's on Zoom? I don't think I see anybody
Looks
else.
like it's pretty much us.
Okay.
But yeah,
Right,
thanks
okay.
for checking in on that. Okay, so then we do not have special reports, so we're going to move to the manager's report.
All right, thank you. I'm going to speak for just some brief updates, and then I'm going to hand the floor over to Johnny. So very briefly, great and very successful 4th of July event. I have one correction to make on my report. Overall, we estimate there were about 10,000 people between parade and fireworks, but the fire chief stated that we had no more than 5,000 people at the fireworks show. So that's a correction that I want to make. We continue to move forward on the J&T excavating project. No determination has been made by the attorneys on the bond issue, so no other items to report on that. The Vernay project, I heard back from the project manager, and I provided that in the report. I will be contacting the US EPA administrator, strongly expressing my concerns over the delays, and look forward to this project moving forward. Finally, I'd like to add that two more things. The gas aggregation project, we had initially planned on bringing that online in July. We have not received a contract from AEP on the gas aggregation, so we've hit some delays on that. I've been in touch with Brian and Marianne on that project, as they are the liaisons for that, so we'll provide updates as we have them. And finally, we had our auditors begin the auditing work last week. They were here, and they were in and out in 2 days. So that's moving along at a much faster timeline than we did last year. So the on-site audit has been completed. There's still some paperwork that they're making their way through, but we expect to file the audit by the end of the month. And Johnny, how's your...
Well, actually, Johnny, before you get up, I just have a couple. Okay, so one of the things that we talked about related to kind of, I guess, delaying the parking initiative was that we were going to get a little bit more proactive about getting people to, donate to parking and have so I'm just curious where we're at with that.
We have not executed the QR code and the online payment for that. Right today, the team discussed about the EV charging mechanism. That's still a lingering issue, so the focus of today's meeting was updating that QR code and getting that Blink system up and running. So we want to take care of that, and then we'll move on to the parking donation through a digital app and the signage for that.
Okay. So anyway, so just so everyone's clear, so the idea was that we discussed at the Finance Committee that we would like promote donating, via an app, particularly because like when we tried to do the donation boxes, people stole the money. So we were, going to try like this other option and see how that worked. So.
And if I may add, Brian, functionally, nothing's changing in how the program works, that it's donation-based. We're providing just another tool in which people can donate. So instead of using physical cash in the boxes, they can do cash via an app. And it's completely voluntary as donation, so nothing's changing from the current way that we're doing it in terms of functionally. To elaborate a bit more on the donation boxes, we had people that would keep breaking into the donation boxes, and at some point, Johnny did the math and determined that the repairs and replacement of the boxes were exceeding the money that we were collecting from the boxes. Johnny, anything you want to add to that?
That's a fact.
So,
This is going back to the Vernay thing. So there's a video on the website I just sent out late. What the EPA is doing with Vernay for remediation and cleanup is ongoing. And I know that Vernay, at least from the video that's from their website, is planning on doing a lot of hardscaping, and there's going to be construction going, there's going to be landscaping, basically hardscaping construction going on through like 2040?
From the moment that they do the excavation, so a key piece of the remediation plan in the future is the removal of the actual contaminants.
Got that.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be like, and this is something we can think about later, like what would moving towards solar look like if they're not finished with the if they're not going to be finished until 2040 on that piece of land? They're going to be changing that piece of land physically.
The hardscaping work, as I understand it, is not going to encompass 20 years. The excavation and putting down the barrier to prevent gassing off the soil, that's not going to take 20 years. That's a much shorter time frame, and then there'll be things put on top of it to refield the area that would be excavated.
I think it's the pumping, pulling out from the groundwater and cleaning.
Yeah, I mean, it's on their website. So, but according to their timeline, and it's their official website, it looks as though one could conclude that they have the opportunity, if they want to take this work 20 years out. So I guess my question is, like, where does that leave us with regards to, the EPA thing is kind of like, I don't want to say it's a separate thing, it's the same, but according to what that company is allowed to do, they could really pull out the process.
Oh, yes. They could drag this on for a long time. Now, they've been at it for over 20 years, and they've been paying for the pump and treat system for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, they've been at it and spending a lot of money to remediate the site. So, but it could easily be another 20 years.
Okay.
So, but I think the point being that we've got to insert ourselves and try to avoid this continued delay. And so, so we got to figure that out. Do you want to briefly talk about the Honda meeting?
Yes, we, several of us, Meg, not here, but Meg, Lisa, myself attended the Honda plant meeting at the at Jeffersonville.
I was the point person. I went out the day before just to make sure everything was okay. And it was.
You
I'm
were the
glad
scout. Okay,
Yeah,
good, good.
yeah, I scouted.
And I'm sorry, Kevin, that you were on the email and I didn't notice that you were not in the
Right.
subsequent email, so I apologize. I
Not
thought
a
there was-
problem. At least I got there and I saw the place.
Right. So we had a really good meeting, and in short, we got to see a bit of the business strategy that Honda is looking to execute in Ohio. Honda has been in Ohio since 1971, and they have several plants in Ohio. How Ohio fits in their EV strategy is that this is going to be the EV hub for Honda. Batteries will be made in Jeffersonville. Those batteries will be transported to Anna, where they would do battery encasing. So they'll package the batteries that they would then be transported to another facility in Ohio, where they will go into the vehicles that are being produced by Marysville and other plants in Ohio. So the overall vision for Honda is that this is their EV platform. And that's going to be what they call the gold standard for how EV vehicles will be made under the Honda brand globally. This is where they're starting. So we're looking at 2,200 jobs that are operator and technician jobs, and there'll be another 200 to 300 management jobs that they'll be creating. What Honda stressed at this meeting is that the plant is a joint venture between LG Energy Services and Solutions and Honda. So it's not just Honda, but LG is an equal partner in this joint venture. So the joint venture will have its own entity, and that's to advance the business interest of both LG and Honda. So that's the other piece that was shared. I have a couple slides that were shared that I took pictures of the presentation. I would either put those in a PDF file and share them with council, or try to get the original presentation and share that with council.
Great.
Did that answer your question, Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Quick update on Dayton Yellow Springs project.
No update. We got word that
Oh, it's in your...
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
So that's Johnny's turf.
And then neighborhood gardens. So I'm curious about, it's popped up a couple times, like what are we spending and what's the return on investment for that?
Well, I'll take a look at my,
Okay.
you have it? Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So we are, actually, might be 3,000 we're paying, no more than 3,000.
Okay.
I think it's less, to Florentina to manage the gardens, but the goal is to create self-sufficient community cooperative gardens. We talked about it at the Environmental Commission, had a list of ideas and questions that we need to put together. The way they're operating now is not that, and the goal is to create perhaps some fencing, put in enough structure that it can be better managed at the gardens, but I'd say it's in progress right now, how this will unfold.
Okay. Because I saw things like there was going to be signage about, so we haven't
About
done any of
signage,
that, right?
fencing, pardon?
We haven't, I haven't seen any of that, but...
No, it hasn't
It
happened.
hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet.
Okay.
So
The money for that would come out of funds that the Environmental Commission
Okay.
has in its budget.
So on the contractual services, we're spending $1,350 for the contractor, that's Florentina. And then we have an allocation for materials such as the signage and other fencing materials that we needed for $250. So our total will be $1,600 for this project.
Okay. I guess these kinds of things, I know they're small, but I'd like to have some updates on, what's happening.
Okay, I will get with the Environmental Commission and Florentina about a project status update and a timeline, if one's available, on what things will be done by the end of the growing season. So this is going to go through September.
Okay.
Does that sound good, Mary Ann?
All right. Yes.
So, sorry if my memory is failing me here, but I feel like when we were talking about at the manager's report a couple months ago, or a couple meetings ago, I think we were talking about, like, when we did the goals, like the sort of priorities for the year, like, I think the idea was, as I remember, it was like maybe we would put like a section for those in, not because I think there's something that you're missing that isn't, but just in some part just to like reinforce like what are the things that we're talking about. So I just wanted to bring that up again and see if you'd be open to that, Josue. I would find it useful just as like a kind of process check on those items that we had talked about before.
Yes, no, I committed to that, and I'm going to deliver on breaking the goals by breaking the report by a separate sheet on the 4 goals that we talked about.
And just for whatever it's worth, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting like a full report
Yeah.
on every one of them, but just even like you have just a heading like you
Yes.
have here. Anyway,
Yes.
that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right, Johnny.
I've been writing down notes, so let's see here. Let's start off with traffic on Polecat. I've already had a meeting with Greene County, but what I can tell you is, as Josue and I went out there, we looked at it. I did talk to John Dobney. They don't have the staff nor the manpower to be able to do it, so I have taken it on. We're having the trees cut under the power lines all the way to the ground. And then the street department's going to go out there and dig out the stumps. You should have about 75 more feet to be able to see if somebody's coming down the bike path. And then we'll wind up trying to keep it maintained to where people can see if somebody's coming past that area. Because they're under the power line, we're cutting them down. There's a lot of scrub stuff there. ENIC has committed to being able to get that done by the end of the week. And then my team will be out there probably the following week, and I wasn't able to give you the update because of dealing with things today. But by the end of the week, next week, we should be able to see about 75 feet up that clearing on the, the northeast side of that road. First week in August is in my report. The parking lot will be redone at Ellis. And the spur coming up to the other side of Polecat will also be cleaned up, re-blacktop, re-striped. And then I got to get with John and see if they'll do the actual crosswalk. It's a thermal crosswalk. See if he can at least hit that again if we're doing the clearing and all that. So I will reach out to him tomorrow and talk to him about that.
So Johnny, I so much appreciate that we're being proactive. I guess I don't understand when the county has a levy that generates $1 million for
The standard right now, I can tell you that I talked to John extensively, is it meets the state code, it meets everything. So they wouldn't even trim under the power line because that's not theirs anyway, it's in the right of way. So I have to be able to do that part. By me doing that, it at least clears it. And instead of figuring out who they and this and that, I would rather just clear into the power lines, take the proactive piece of it, are gonna help power outages out that way, and be able to clear it.
And they're working with you
Yes.
on that.
Yeah, I want to emphasize this point that Johnny's making, that we are exercising our authority or jurisdiction over the power lines to be able to do this.
Correct. Okay. But again, they do, we have a trails levy that generates $1 million a year.
The trees that I'm talking about does not, the trail's not affected. It's not part of the trails. It's actually on the right of way.
Okay.
So it is actually what is blocking majority of the view is right under the power line.
So
All the stuff that is growed up.
So the trail maintenance has been from the trail out to the tree line? Okay.
So, and we clear that, you'll be able to see that I won't have to go back into the trails to be able to get that done. So by us doing what we're doing for the tree line clearing, it will help tremendously.
And in terms of rapid flashers, what are we?
That is more for the county. I have a whole different opinion about those because you got to push them to be able to make them work.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go right downtown and see how well they worked about 60% of the time, because that's about how many people push it.
I was a fan of the sign in the middle of the street. You had,
Well,
I mean,
I was too, except for every
hit
week
it.
when it got hit and it was drug up the road, and it was $900 to replace it.
Right.
Or we had to send people up to get it.
Right.
So, and the wide loads, they didn't care.
Yeah.
The farm trucks, they didn't care. So there was just an expense. Lloyd Bob Baldwin is the one that brought us to our attention. Instead of two of them flashing at one time, we was able to reprogram them to where if one person touches it, it flashes all four at the same time. If you make them go automatically, then you're sending the wrong signal to people that they don't have to. If they initiate that
Right,
touch,
sure.
they have to watch to make sure they go across that
Yeah.
road. Tragedies happen, accidents happen, but I think we ought to go and step back to where Paige was doing Safety Village. We have to train. I'll be the first one to admit, I jaywalk in town all the time. Paige, don't ticket me tomorrow. But we have to retrain ourselves to go to the crosswalks, to use the crosswalks, to stop. Literally, just last week when I was going home, the flashing lights were going, I slowed down, but instead, when I went to take off, there was nobody there. Somebody come in a 45-degree angle and cut right in front of me and then cussed me out, but I'm like, wait a minute. I did stop, but you cut at a 45-degree angle. So I think it's retraining and making sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to make things happen. And trimming under the power lines is one step to making sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can.
Oh, me and Brian are having a meeting with,
Okay,
yeah, we're doing
Yep.
that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to let you know, prior to wherever meeting you have, we'll have the power line cleared and there'll be some big improvements out there.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I'm also disappointed that, Greene County Parks and Trails didn't step up on that, but anyway.
So let's go back to, let's just start off with the water tower. They are in there. We have had one thing after another. Today, we actually had back siphoning happen where it started putting water back into the tower, and it's because it was a vacuum thing, so we got that figured out. But we are waiting on engineered drawings right now. They are going to have to cut a 11-foot 4 by 9-foot 6 hole in the side of the tower to be able to get lift in there, because there is no rigging points from 1963 in them towers. It also has an aluminum roof. So we're waiting on structural engineers to give us a green stamp to be able to cut a hole in the side of the tower. And then they will re-weld it back and coat it and everything else.
Is this going to appreciably change the
It
overall
will
cost?
change the scope of the work, but on top of it, we had some other changes we've had to do. Instead of sandblasting the towers on the outside, we may have to go to a one coat, which our third party has agreed that we don't need to sandblast them. So we're trying to make sure that we stay under that budget. And these are unforeseen. We got the tower emptied, and right before the meeting, I was actually talking to Viking, and he informed us, and I told you, I believe that now they're telling me the roof is leaking. So, and it's an aluminum roof, so we're getting into that tomorrow. So we got to figure out who did the roof, what year the roof was done, and just challenges.
Yeah.
But they're in the process of working on it. It will be much better once it's complete, and Brad will be able to relax a little bit.
Great.
3 months.
Great.
So
How big of a deal is it to just be one water tower?
very big deal. It can be done. It's not the way that our system is designed now. The towers are not operating at what we consider normal, because it's drawing down, it's running a lot more because it's one tower, you're not taking them both down at the same time. So to go to one tower, it'd be a process. I wouldn't feel comfortable in it. For a temporary situation, it's okay, but I also like to have an extra 1 million gallons sitting in the tower right next to it. So I think this is going to be the worst one. The other one, it's still roof, they've got the stuff in it, and this is the one that they rehabbed after it imploded at the bottom. They raised it up, put another top on it. So once we get this one done, I feel better about next year's tower. The other thing is the valves have not been turned for many, many years. So we got 50.6 turns on a 16-inch valve. It takes 51 to shut it. So we have water running, and we exercised it for 2 days.
Did you use PB Blaster?
We did not, but man, I wish we had.
You got some in your garage, I know.
So we have continuous water running right now, but it's very minor compared to what it could be. So that's the tower update.
So-
Go ahead.
Just before you go,
Yes.
can I just process real quick, understand what's going on? So how much time, not because I'm not interested, but just so I haven't, are we taking, like, as he asks, brings stuff up, we're going to ask questions all along the way, or how much time are we trying, just so I have a sense of what's the scope here?
We've got 30 minutes.
Okay, so do you want us to, should we be asking you questions as you go? How many things do
I
you
think
have?
so. I think so
Yeah?
because
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I could go on for hours,
Okay. I mean, yeah.
but I always get shut down. So.
I had a question going back to the traffic stuff, I guess. I don't know if
Yes.
there's other things
Good.
there. Is that okay? So I guess I'm just wondering, like, sort of bigger picture. Like, you've heard, I assume, at some of the meetings, discussions about traffic calming, about, tonight Carmen mentioned rumble strips. You talked about speed bumps. We've talked about, and there's been a bunch of different options. I guess I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how are you feeling about the sort of safety in the village as it pertains to cars? And I think what you said is accurate, the idea that cars are the most dangerous thing here. I don't know. I'm just wondering,
So
as somebody who pays more attention than anybody else, what are you thinking?
Let me back up from where I am to 2014. As a contractor, we avoided Yellow Springs. Because if you went 2 miles over the speed limit, you got a ticket. You got pulled over. Not saying that they're not pulling people over and they're not giving tickets, but we also went dormant there for a while. So I don't think it's only the in-town drivers. The county needs to probably step up some as well. Working on the roads today versus 10 years ago, it's scary. I mean, you're working downtown and you got a semi coming through there, the speed limit's 25, right? Well, if a semi's doing 25 through downtown, that's fast. We was working on West South College the other day, and we can talk about cars going around barricades. We can talk about bicycles that went over a ditch as soon as we put the gravel in it, and then proceeded to tell us what he thought about us. You have to be very cautious about what we do as far as rumble strips and speed bumps and things like that, because once we start placing rumble strips, now all of a sudden it's like a steel plate on the ground. Now all of a sudden we're going to start getting noise complaints. You do a speed bump, and now we got fire trucks got to slow down to go over them. We got everything's got to slow down to go over them. We've talked about putting them on Dayton Street before, but now we're going to shorten the intersections with the next multimodal process to where we can calm it down some. The staff, myself with Paige, we have done a lot on Fairfield Pike. First thing we did was one of the things that we did prior to even Paige being here, we put this is what your speed is, and that just seems to be how fast can I go to see if it'll go past 100 miles per hour. But those are there. It flashes when you're speeding. They're on Corey Street. Now they're on Splant. And it doesn't seem to help. If they're ticketed prior to coming into the village, it may help. It may not help. It may be the next one. But the other thing you got to watch is the texting and driving. How many times have you almost been hit because of somebody texting and driving? But if we only concentrate on those, we've had complaints on Glen Street. Josue and I was in a parking lot this morning at Gaunt Park and almost got hit by somebody that was a little late to work. And we're like, wait a minute, she just flew by us. And that's a driving habit that we have to try to cure. I don't know that we're going to fix all the speeding problems in town, but I think we could. We've done some clearing of the right-of-way. We used to have the sign to death, basically. You had a sign after sign after sign after sign, and people get tired of seeing signs. So now we've highlighted, we put the reflective ones up there, we've taken off all the unnecessary signs, we've trimmed it back to where you can see the signs, and that you can see around corners and stuff like that. But I had mom and 2 kids pull out in front of me the other day, and I was doing 25 on Fairfield, but they didn't stop at the stop sign on a bicycle, pulled right out in front of me. Now, I was far enough back, but I'm thinking, man, that's just, I wouldn't ride on Fairfield. I wouldn't walk on Fairfield. And I think if we eliminated the walking on Fairfield and a bicycle riding on Fairfield until we got a sidewalk or a bike path on Fairfield, that could help the problem. And just eliminate that. The crosswalk that goes across to Fair Acres is scheduled for the first week in August as well. So there will be a highlighted area in that. That one also could be a rapid flashing beacon for the school kids to go through that area. That's like a $15,000 item that we can put in there when we do budget for next year.
So just one quick follow-up, thank you. On the, like, emergency vehicles and their issues with speed bumps, and I hadn't thought about the rumble strip, like, noise complaint issue. But on the speed bumps, I can't remember if it was somebody here, I thought somebody said that some of the emergency crews support it because it creates less. So basically, have you talked to them? Do you know what their opinions are here?
It was Jason Levick.
Oh, okay.
I have talked to Denny Powell, and I've talked to Colin Ottman. When we talked about the ones on Dayton Street at a meeting, they both are okay with it, but they wanted the emergency vehicle style to where they could run their dualies and they ain't got to slow down for them. So they got to be a rumble or a speed bump and then a 4-foot brake and then a 2-foot speed bump and then a 4-foot brake. That way, for them, they don't have to slow down.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But guess what? It also doesn't.
Makes you can swerve around.
It doesn't let the dump truck slow down. It doesn't let the semi slow down. It doesn't let the people that have the dualies not slow down. The only people it affects is the littler cars because the other ones are the same wheelbase. So if you're personally plowing snow, can't stand this because once you get the momentum going, you have to keep rolling with it. And once you slow down, then you have to try to get over that bump and then keep going and try to get that snow out. Right. I think we ought to try everything until we can not try it, and then we may have to put them in. But
okay, thank you.
That's the last.
Yep.
So is that all you had on that one?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Gaunt Park Playground is ordered. I'm waiting on a scheduled delivery before we take and remove the old section, and then we will get that one on the schedule to be put in. Sidewalks, we're on our last section that has been identified from our original study. Spencer Building Group is doing this section. They have got Ridgecrest, Robinwood, Paxton done, Walnuts done, and they are now on colleges. He's hoping to have them done. I actually added some more things to him today. We're supposed to also go out on Wednesday and look at some more. So hopefully in the next 3 weeks, they'll be 100% done, and then we can check off sidewalks for a little bit and then reevaluate them. So.
And this is grinding, or?
No, this is actually repairing and replacing
Okay.
everything's been ground. We're 100% done with grinding.
Gotcha.
Then the next thing we need to jump into is curbs. And that's going to be next year's probably.
And this is beyond like what we got grants for?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Keys Alley, Ellis Park.
Wait. Are you done with,
Okay.
can I ask a
Yes.
sidewalk question?
Sure.
Sorry. Josue, I asked you about this one. This is my personal provincial interest. So the corner of Limestone and Walnut,
Yeah.
is that the 200 block? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you.
No, no,
So
you're fine.
We did an immediate patch, and we took care of that, as we did, we also did the post office. We did immediate patches on those the week that you and I spoke, and we scheduled that for replacement under this contract.
Great, thanks. I just got a couple kids who have tripped over those
Yep.
things lots of times, so thank you.
Yep.
I'm sure I have too.
Keys Alley, Ellis Park, Fairfield and Fair Acres crosswalk is all scheduled for the first and second week in August to get seal coated and then restriped. We're going to do a blacktop patch in Keys Alley parking lot right prior to. They had a couple of sinkholes in it. We found out it was 2 old fence posts that they had just done over. The barbed wire is still there, but the fence posts were actually giveaway, so we sucked them out, put down some 3 or 4 and tamped it solid. Spring Meadows is going fairly well. If the water would dry up, as you guys can see, the green pipe is about 20 feet deep, and they have water flowing in. They're trying something this week with draining the retention pond and pumping it on out and down the system. Hopefully it will take more of the groundwater and get it into the retention pond away from the ditches. They started to water on Friday. They actually got 300 foot of water on Wright Street in, and they got another 300 foot today. So there's sewer on one side on Kenneth Hamilton. They're coming in with water on the other side. They got multiple crews working together to get that done. So I'll stop there for a minute. When we was figuring Kenneth Hamilton and Union Street out, we could not figure out this for the life of us. Finally, we figured it out. Back in the day, they didn't really buy right tight or left tight, or righty tighty, lefty loosey. They just bought what they could. So a valve that was installed back in the early 90s was never open. So when we turned it thinking we was closing it, we actually opened it. And we're like, why isn't that hydrogen shutting off? Finally, we figured it out. And so we was able to give Park Meadows a little bit better water pressure by activating an 8-inch line. Think that's a one-off. Nope. The 2 days prior to that, we was all sitting, we was trying to figure out, we shut a fire hydrant off on Kingsfield, and it shut somebody off on King Street. This don't make sense. We was locating. Finally, we went to all the records. The valves ain't there. We measured. We went back to a 1993 GIS on Greene County site, and we noticed Ben noticed that there's a saw mark in the street. You can actually see where there's a trench. So then we took and we measured off of the county site in 93. We measured it to the 2023 map, and it put all the valves on the north side of the driveway of the church, Baptist Church.
First Baptist.
So we went out there and found 3 valves that was installed in 1991. 2 of them was never turned on. So we disturbed some brown water in that neighborhood by activating that, because it was a closed one loop. It was being fed off a high street. So we found 3 valves. We've turned 2 of them on. So now we got better pressure in that area as well. So these are just little things that were, it's a win-win for us, because we're like, they're there according to the print, but we had to dig up the side yard and raise the valves up and all that. So kudos to the guys and gals. They are here to fix it, solve it, find it, and if it doesn't turn one way, try the other way. So that is the water. Good.
So going back to the new development,
Yes.
the Kinney Farm. So I guess we got a lot of rain, and I'm assuming, I guess the question is just, is there any sort of systemic concern, or is it just like we got a lot of rain at the wrong time with the least amount of, erosion limitation with just a ton of dirt, or Is there anything about what's happening that gives you concern long term?
There is nothing that gives me concern about long-term. I have talked to DDC. They're definitely still moving forward. Basements can have sump pumps and stuff like that. Once they get this system in, it's all going to filter to the detention pond, and they'll be good to go.
Okay.
The best part about that out there is, unlike Walnut Street and the Bryant Center, they've not hit limestone yet, and they're 20 feet deep. We hit it at 7 inches in the backyard. And they jackhammered for a month on Walnut Street, going down 17 feet. They've not hit one yet. So, and they've dug all over the place. If you've not been out there, it changes daily. I recommend you go to the end of the county of Hamilton or right and take a look at it. It changes daily. They have a lot of people out there. They are on a mission to get it in, and they're doing a fantastic job. One thing that I want to point out to everybody listening, and maybe you guys can get out the word, including the paper. In the first week in July, we had 6 trees fall in 4 days. None of them was village-owned trees. But we had a lot of overtime and a lot of power lines damaged because of homeowners not realizing their tree is bad. You can call. I know the tree committee will come out and look at your trees for you, give you recommendations. There's some big trees that have long limbs that go over the roads, and if that's the case, I'll see if I can help you out with trying to help take up some of that cost, because I'd rather pay a little bit now versus a lot. The one was the last council meeting I was on. I had to drop off, and then we worked until like 1 o'clock in the morning to get just a part of a tree that fell, and it was like 60 foot tall. So we wound up calling in 4 people and actually had to call in Arbor Care to come help us. So just a side note to maybe have it out there in the paper, please have your trees looked at. It is not worth it falling. Actually, if you look at the picture in the council packet, you'll see a tricycle about 20, probably about 12 and 15 feet up in the air of a tree that when it fell, now, if there had been a kid out there, or there had been an adult out there, or an animal out there, they wouldn't have survived. It wouldn't have. So, just a side note.
Johnny, if you don't mind, you just alluded to like sharing information with the public, and you just encouraged us to go to Kenneth Hamilton or to Wright Street.
Correct.
There was some conversation in the atmosphere about this other
There
entry.
was. Where the storm line comes from the detention pond, they tied into Dayton Street.
Right.
And there's a gravel driveway there. People believed that that was the entrance to the new plat. I've even had people come to my office and say, why didn't we get a notice about this new intersection coming in? I was like, it's not an intersection,
Right.
It's private property.
Right.
So what we've done since then is they had to replace the apron for the driveway. And now we've got cones in front of that because we don't want them driving back here. And they've not got the fence back up. They're waiting for the blessings from the EPA and all that to be
Gotcha.
able to get that done. But that is what it is.
Okay.
People just seen that it was a gravel driveway. It was going back to by an open area, and they was just driving back here, and then they was on camera and everything else.
Yep. Okay, good. Good information. Hope that gets out.
I don't know if you guys noticed or had, when we did drain the tower, then we had a water main break, same day. So the team jumped in. It was actually one of the water mains that was supposed to be taken out by J&T. So we had to actually dig it up as an emergency. It was a leak. We finally found the leak, and as soon as we exposed the leak, it decided to just snap in half. So we had to actually fix it under full pressure, and we had to close down West-South College in a snap because it was not a nice break by no means. So if you come across West-South College and it was closed, we didn't get proper notice, because when all heck breaks loose, you close roads down and you try to make it safe. So just putting that out there. We are in the process of clearing right-of-ways and alleys. We have actually got a machine that goes onto the side of our track hoe now we can just go down, we can reach over, and we can, and try to clear it up. A lot of the alleys, and I took Coastway down one of them today, we have to give notice, they got bamboo and it has overtaken the alley, and it's off of Dayton Street, and so we're gonna take care of it in the alley, and then we're gonna have the homeowner take care of the rest of it. But please try to keep the alleys maintained. We shouldn't have to go through there and clean up the back of your properties, and quit trying to come into the alley with your property. So we have done a lot.
Bamboo.
And bamboo, oh my word, I do not like it, can't stand it. It's an invasive species, that's for sure. You can't kill it, you have to dig it out. We have it in multiple areas of the village, and we need it gone, because they plant it right there on the corner. It takes over the whole intersection, Walnut Street, Northwood, behind Dollar General, Dayton Street, Xenia Avenue. I can take you through all of it. So let's see, we have a storm project, we have a couple of areas, we got to do ADA handicap ramps. Actually, Spencer is going to look at those for me on top of repairing the sidewalk and the driveway approach for the laundromat, and then we're going to put some 411s down in the parking lot. People don't like the little bigger rock that come up with the job, so we're going to top coat. Our sidewalk on North Winter, Tanner's installing a handrail on one of the sides. We noticed that it's got a little bit bigger of a drop off because of the grade change. So he may have got it done today. He was getting a handrail. We're going to put a handrail there to where people they don't fall at nighttime or whatever. Our goal, I know that people like the way the Walnut or the Winter looks, but our goal is also to make Walnut the same way, to have a curb there, to put in storm drains, but that's at a different phase. We couldn't do it at this time. So just putting it out there, we have the engineers looking at it. It's just not going to happen this year. It's going to probably be a couple years before we get to it. 4th of July, I agree. I took some pictures. I could not believe how packed that hillside was. And then if you look out across the baseball fields, they were just people lined up everywhere. The electric, there was a note on there that their AES is changing out in poles in town. What they're doing is they marked about 35 poles in town. The Cincinnati fiber that's going through, they're riding on Dayton Power and Light poles. Dayton Power and Light changes their poles out, makes the fiber company pay for it. So then what happens is then we have to go and we change all of our stuff as well. So that is what, when you see the up there for the electric department changing over the AES on Allen, that is what that's about. We are continuing. Can't thank you guys enough for listening to us. The staff is getting more and more done. They're asking for more money for material because they're getting things done, having the electric and the water separated, having the extra bit of help for the street department. We could use some more in there, but we're getting by. We got 2 guys that are doing nothing but mowing all week. I got another 3 that is doing all the other stuff, and the grass is just growing too fast. So it was also very nice, I can tell you, that having the extra help on the water main break and the tower draining at the same time, it worked out because the plant guys, one of them being from streets, one of them being from the electric and water that went to the plants, they knew how to operate the valve exercising machine. So we took it up there. They was using it up there while the water guys, myself, the street department was closing down roads, and then the electric guys come driving by. They're like, hey, we're going to go get all the stuff. We'll bring it back to you. So it was actually all hands on deck from Brad, Ben, and Tanner's crews, even to Rose. She was delivering boil advisory notices. She's the one that ran all the samples up at 5:30 while they held the doors open for us. It was a great team effort. It would have been very difficult to do this job that particular day with the old staff that we had, because you wouldn't have had the people up there at the tower because they'd have been in the water hole. you wouldn't have had the people at the tower because they would have been trying to close down roads for us. So thank you for allowing me to get more staff to be able to multitask and be able to get more things done. When it comes to budget next year, hold on. We got some issues because we're going to need more material. But it'll be cheaper because it's our own staff and we're taking pride in our work that we do every day. A note from Rose for the water meters and the leaks. Tablets are free at the utility department. Come drop them in your commode, find your leaks before we find them for you. A lot of water hoses were left on, and I'll be the first one to tell you. I used to say, I can tell you when my hose is on. Why do you leave your hoses on? Until I had to, last year, my wife is laughing at me right now, probably on TV. Because last year when I was watering my grass out back, I was trying to grow some grass. She's like, hey, did you shut the water off? I said, yeah, I shut it off out front. I was getting dressed 3 days later, looking out back, and I'm like, uh-oh, I didn't shut that one off. Guess who don't give credit? Xenia. Xenia don't give that sewer credit. But it took me leaving it on to realize that I listen for that stuff all the time. I couldn't listen, couldn't hear it.
Right.
So Rose has got a suggestion, and it's if you are going to water your garden, if you're going to be watering your grass, they make a device they sell at Lowe's and Home Depot. It is a timer that you can put on your outside faucets to where it automatically shuts off, and you don't have to worry about it. So just a side note from Rose.
Appreciate it.
Is it okay to go back to the
Yes.
staffing?
Right ahead.
So I know we'll get into it in the budget, but I was interested in that tonight. So I think I infer from what you're saying that like having less contractors and more staff is going pretty well?
Absolutely, going great.
Okay, that was the main question, so. And it
Absolutely.
sounds like, I mean, I look forward to hearing more, would be interested in hearing more about, if there's other areas. I think the bigger question is like sort of where are the biggest needs when you're done with
Correct.
your whole list, is like, how are you feeling, big picture about things, so.
Correct.
Anyway.
Yes, and it makes a big difference because we had a big list and a big task list. And so when we have two guys that are doing water, Adam Williamson come back to us, and we have a great 18-year-old kid that is his helper, and they are literally rebuilding fire hydrants instead of putting in brand new ones. Adam is, when they do put in a new one, Adam is taking all the old ones apart and taking every piece that we can possibly get off of them to be able to rebuild the other ones. So they are doing a fantastic job at that. The power guys, man, they're just knocking them out one after another, trying to get all the poles that we've been meaning to change, but we couldn't do it because we was doing water and electric. Now we have the guys doing it. We have Ben he completed his first year, even though he's a journeyman. He's taken all the line classes, completed his first year today on the testing. Alex is now signed up. He's one of the new apprentices. He's going to line school. He's already registered at the Northwestern. He actually goes to climbing class in September. Lang Dykeman is actually in Columbus this week at AMP headquarters doing pole climbing class. So even with one down, we're still able to do things that we need to do. There is able to plan around it. The other thing was nice with having like Lane and Ben is we're in the process of remodeling A and B, and they was able to jump in, and we brought them guys in on rainy days, and they was able to do the electric inside. They're going to do the data wiring, and it's going to be an awesome place when we get it done. So we're shifting around. Tanner and his guys are coming in and helping. Ben's helping. So
But everybody's cross-trained.
everybody is cross-trained all the way from the meter readers all the way to the plant guys.
Nice.
So it's a fantastic thing to be able to just call somebody and get things done. Multimodal path. It went out for bid the first time. It was 53% over budget. ODOT, myself, and the engineers looked at it. We made some suggestions. They put it out this time. It come in 1% under budget.
Oh, good.
So it is under contract right now. or it's going to the contract. I don't want to say who it is because they got to get the contract, but they had two that was within 130-something thousand of each other. The other one was 60-something% over budget. So if the one doesn't get it, they'll surely go to the second one. As soon as we get a schedule, we will give you an update on when that's going to start. But it should be, I would think it's going to start probably pretty fast, probably mid-August, that they'll start on that. To go back to the Vernay thing, one thing that Josue and I realized when we first started going to the Vernays and Mary Ann was there, the big difference with the EPA on this project, and the reason why everybody's hands are kind of tied, is they are in a voluntary EPA cleanup. It is not mandatory.
That's right.
So therefore, if they drag it out,
They can.
they can. The hardscape, the digging out, that was already supposed to have been done. COVID happened, and EPA has not been returned back to the office. Don't know where it's at. But that was supposed to have been done within like 18 months of the approval. So I'm still hoping that it gets done because we're getting ready to put a multimodal path right down through there, and I know they're coming right behind us and they're going to dig it up.
Yeah.
But we're not going to wait on them because we've been waiting now for 4 years. But that's the difference. It's voluntary, so they're willing to spread their cost out for 20 to 30 years at the cost of the village.
Yep.
So that's all I have for tonight. I promise to bring back more show and tell items for you. I was not
2-inch
able to get
pipes,
some.
sir.
I was going to
2-inch
get
pipes.
I was going to get the big, I would call turkey foot off the wall and bring it tonight. I did not make it. Sorry, I was at the tower. But I enjoy coming and giving you updates. So if you got any more questions, or are we good?
Yeah, I appreciate this. I will say, what you mentioned about Vernay means that this has become more of a political thing. And so, so anyway, so we may need to change our strategy. I saw Gavin had something. No. So, Johnny, I think already, like, we're going to make more space for infrastructure discussions at this meeting. What I want to task you with the next time is to think more strategically about what we need to do, like, to support infill and, like, the residential and economic development initiatives that we've got going forward. So tonight, what you provided was perfect. I think we needed to hear all this. So, but that's, I guess, what I'm looking for the next time is like, let's like dig into like where are our challenges, where are our opportunities, and so I guess I want you to think about that, with the team.
Okay. Hopefully the next time we will have the electric study 100% done. It's in a final review of the owner. So
Sweet.
Hopefully we'll be getting that before your next meeting in August is what I'm shooting for.
Cool.
So,
All right. Anything else?
Well, I would just say there is a picture in here of the trimming of the hedges at Meadow and Spillane. I don't often go down Meadow to get to Spillane, but I did today, and it's a noticeable difference. Yes. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
not a problem.
On that note, a couple weeks ago, you all received complaints from our citizens sidewalk engagement team. We've started enforcement activities on those complaints.
Yeah.
So several of you residents will be receiving a nice letter from me.
I was thinking we could let Mitzi use that machine. What do you think, Johnny?
No, but I will tell you this. Though. I would prefer that the different things come from Josue or myself or Meg instead of the citizens going up to my staff and saying, hey, by the way, you're going to be doing this. You better get ready because I'm mailing in a bunch of complaints and you better start getting rid on all this. That's not cool because then they get the staff all fired up. if they got the complaints, bring them in. There's no sense in getting the staff all riled up.
Right, right.
I'd already told them about it, so luckily it wasn't as bad.
Right.
But when you start telling the staff that they don't feel like they're working hard enough, so they got to find them more to do.
Right.
That's not
Gotcha,
cool.
I
gotcha.
certainly wasn't referencing
No,
that.
you,
It was a bad
no, I'm
See, Gavin was trying to be funny. All right. Before we shift, I don't exactly know where this goes because Mayor Pam's not here, but it struck me that it was odd to see that there were 68 complaints that went through mayor's court, according to this report. And that was like a jump from like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 in the past.
Street fair report.
Okay. So then what was odd to me was that at the same time, it was only $26 more revenue. So anyway, so I guess I'd just like to, we don't need to talk about that right now, but that seemed odd to me. Like, if, 5,000 more like percent complaints were going through mayor's court and it translated 26 more bucks. So I don't know what that means. And then the other thing I just want to put out there is I'd like us to like consider using drones and not fireworks next year. So, I mean, all the other progressive communities are talking about it, so, are doing it. And so, anyway, I just want to put that on the record. And so, with that, I guess we've got some old business. And, Josue, I think you had something that you shared with us related to kind of moving forward with the Yellow Springs Development Corporation. So I don't know if you would want to
Sure, Brian.
walk through that. Yeah.
Right, and this is a team effort. So, and speaking with Dino Pallotta and a few others as we're engage in a multi-pronged strategy for business development, and that multi-pronged being the village, the development corporation, and other stakeholders reaching out to potential business partnerships to grow jobs or start jobs here in the village. We understood and we determined that we need to have material presentations that several partners can give or can conduct with prospective businesses for the village. So in speaking with Brian and Dino, we started discussing an outline. What are the things that we want to highlight to present the values of the village? And so we put together an outline, and it's in front of you, to look at the potential areas of work that we want to highlight when presenting to potential business partners. So obviously in the introduction is setting the tone for unveiling how the village can play a key role in sustainable development, sustainable business development for both the prospective business and the village. And then as we make the pitch for why they should choose Yellow Springs, we have outlined 7 different areas that we can promote. One being a proactive local governance. That means a couple things. We have our own building department, our own planning and zoning. So we have a very involved and proactive governance structure that businesses will find appealing. There's the green power utilities. As you heard from AMP a couple weeks ago, we are over 90% of our sources come from renewable energy sources. That's something
95%?
Yes, so that's something big to be celebrated. There are quality of life things that we can promote, that being diverse housing options and multiple community choice. This could seem difficult for some folks to wrap their head around because we know we have a housing shortage. But of the existing housing supply or housing types there in the village, there's a robust options of different types of housing in the village. They might not be vacant, but nonetheless is diverse housing. Inclusive.
It makes a difference. It makes a difference if they're vacant or.
Yes, right. But we're not all single family housing or so there's some good diversity, just not readily available. So inclusive community values. This talks a lot about the council the values that council as a body has adopted. So there's that room for a slide dedicated just that to community values. I think the paper quoted, actually, no, I know the paper quoted good statements from Carmen about that community values piece. So we got a whole section that we can highlight those community values. A robust local economy. We have industry here. I know we don't have the industry that we used to have, such as the Vernay, the Antioch Publishing, but we got a good solid local economy base. We got a good base of manufacturing job, professional jobs. So it's a robust local economy, and that includes a vibrant downtown. And health and wellness centric, and finally, a vibrant downtown. So this is an outline of the things that we can highlight, and it goes on to what are we seeking, what kind of partnerships we're seeking, promoting our lessons learned and our competitive advantage. So we have a lot of strengths.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I didn't know you had me on a timer, Kevin.
Sorry.
Identifying gaps, looking at past business experience, and what are the growth sectors that we have room for. And finally, closing out with a vision for the future. We are forward, we are future forward oriented, and so we emphasize sustainable economic development. What is the messaging that we want to close out our presentation? And then finally, we are a welcoming community. So this is the outline. Brian and I got to review it early on, and all of these items capture what Brian was thinking. Brian, I don't want to speak for you, but these are areas that we intend to build out as we put together the pitch deck and as we send this off to the YSDC for some refinement. One of the things that Brian and I were going back and forth on were, what is the initial pitch, or what's the tagline? Right now, we've got igniting economic growth through sustainable development. That's far from being final, but that's a starting point. We're going to be soliciting feedback on what's going to be the tagline.
So
Marian?
now isn't the time for wordsmithing, but is there a way we can make some comments on this?
Absolutely. I will send you the PowerPoint itself, and I have a Word document that goes with this, and you're also welcome to write on it and hand it back to me.
I mean, do you have some initial thoughts that you want to?
Well, actually, the one thought I had right here was, I don't like the term igniting
Right.
because of all of the climate stuff going on and the fires and everything, so
Yeah.
Okay.
that sort of stuck out. But yeah, I have,
Yeah.
I'd like to make some comments.
Well, so, and I think that was the goal is, the Yellow Springs Development Corporation is like gung-ho. They've got somebody working on a slide deck, but I want to make sure that we, kind of vis-a-vis our like collaborative meeting, that we're like proactive about, how we want to promote the village. And so, yeah, I want to make sure that council's like in the mix. I think that's what the DC has also asked for. And, but I do appreciate, I think Josue did a nice job of capturing like a lot of the like key things. And then I also agree, like, yeah, we need to change the tagline, but, yeah.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Brian and I talked about too is having a dedicated space for this. So we're thinking of a dedicated website, like a landing page, like we do with our comprehensive land use plan. That's Sustainable Yellow Springs. I think that it would be good to have a landing page for business pitch and outreach.
Yeah.
Cool. So, this will be an ongoing discussion, but any questions or comments on this? All right. Thanks, Josue. All right. In terms of commission things, I had a couple questions. Marianne, did the economic, the Environmental Commission, did you guys pay for the street fair booth?
No,
Okay, so that was gratis?
The Environmental Commission had 2 booths for free, and we shared it with the tree committee. I don't know if there was any other nonprofits in those 2 booths.
Okay, cool.
The mayor's monitor first.
All right, good.
And I do have some things from the
Yeah.
Environmental Commission.
All right, cool. Yeah,
You-
so anyway, so that, I just wondered, and I'm glad to hear that, so, go ahead.
Well, the Habitat team, which, as you may know, is a collaboration with the Environmental Commission, the Glen, Agraria, sort of, and Tecumseh Land Trust, and now the Tree Committee, asked to be a subcommittee of EC, and we voted on that and agreed to that. And so the team is going to work up like a mission statement and how it operates and sort of roles and responsibilities. So that's in progress.
Great.
The idea is that it would be it wouldn't be like the Active Transportation Committee, except that it wouldn't be a sunshine law thing, so that people can meet and, they're always going out, different people are going out and doing different things and everything. So when that work gets done to sort of solidify how it's being framed, then I'll bring that to council to review.
Great.
Also, Rebecca Potter, Josue, and Matthew Salazar and I went to Athens, and we visited 2 composting facilities. It was great. It was a great trip. We're really into composting, as are the people, both Hawkins, Athens Recycling Composting Society, or nonprofit. They do all the trash. They do the whole trash thing, too. And then we visited the one at the university. So there's a lot that we have to figure out, and hopefully we will be able to do that. And then the other thing is, while we were there, talking with the guy at the composting for Athens, he mentioned that Rural Action has a zero waste events program that's spun off of Rural Action, which is a big organization in the Athens area. So we've started making contact with them, and hopeful that we can use them, whether it's consulting or actually working directly with our event providers, to work toward zero waste events. And I'm saying work toward zero waste events. The fall street fair is not going to be zero waste. Hopefully, there will be a much better job at recycling. That's an initial thought of like really focusing on that.
Or reusing?
Well, we'll see. This is in progress. I'm not going to
Right.
make any promises. Riley and I have met and talked about it, and I've talked with Mark Heiss. So, and it's interesting, I think, that we now have 3 linkages with Athens. We have SOPEC. We're trying to coordinate with their compost and with the zero waste thing. So I'm happy about that, creating these linkages with other progressive communities in this state, because we can't look to the state, really.
Right.
So we have to, and like what we're doing with Jamestown and Cedarville and the police, creating these collaborative linkages with other communities, I think, is really important.
Well, and I think to underscore that, it tends to be Athens and the big Cs, the 3 Cs, and us that take the lead on a lot of different initiatives. And so the more we're in sync with what Athens is thinking about, the better. I think we can, consider our own policies. So 2 quick things related to that, and then Gavin. So I have continued to have that conversation with Five Rivers Metro Parks and Timothy Pritchard, who's their composting guy. And so I am going to meet with him, and I will share that in case the team wants to join in. But I think it's important to see what we're doing locally as well. And then the other question I had, Marianne, related to the events, when I read the memo about it being a multi-year initiative, can you elaborate on like what multi-year
It
means?
means this street fair in the fall is not going to be a zero waste event.
Uh-huh.
By that, I mean there will be waste,
Right.
and probably next year. We have not created a timeline. We're not there yet. But I appreciate that, one, I think the businesses and the chamber want to move in that direction. And I don't want to get in a position we've done with some of the other things recently where we lay down these laws and then people freak out and we can't do that. And everything. I think this needs to be a joint planning thing.
Okay. I mean, we have definitely not laid down any laws, but, I mean, I will say, I bring it up because I have pause at, like, how difficult some of these things are, but, you know, I appreciate that there's work being done.
I've never done it before, so I have no idea.
Well, I mean, we have lots of businesses that are using paper and reusing and whatever, so.
I have
Gavin.
on a separate one. Is it
Yes.
Okay to.
We're
are we
done with
just
that.
kinda skip
We're done with that. Yeah.
Okay. Are we just kind of, anything
Yeah.
on the reports?
Yeah.
I just had a question, as looking at this just prompted on the Active Transportation Committee, I don't know if this is, I feel like, Kevin, I think it was you, brought up the idea of, around the sidewalks, and the question about ownership of sidewalks at one of our meetings. Is that, sorry if I'm like stepping out of line, is that like an appropriate thing for us to ask the Active Transportation Committee to look into? Like, who researches this stuff or looks into it?
Look into what?
The question, I think the question was on the table more recently, and I know it came up in the budget process last year, was the question of whether or not the village should be responsible for sidewalks or whether residents should be responsible for sidewalks. And then I assume that there's sort of a range of options in between that could include a number of things. I just don't feel like I'm particularly well educated on the topic. I just wonder if there's, like, where do I get that information?
Well, I'm not sure that the Active Transportation Committee would be that group.
Okay.
Maybe, but when the decision was made, how many years ago?
8 years ago?
8 years ago, okay, a while ago, about having the village be responsible for maintaining the sidewalks. It was, and Judith Hempfling, I would say, was a big proponent of that, because it's a transportation corridor, just like the streets are. And that was the rationale, and that's why we voted to have the village be responsible. Now, I think that it would have to be council that would change it. It's a policy decision, and
Yeah, and I guess what I was bringing up is, I've heard, I think, the top lines. I'm just wondering, like, is there like a study on this, or like, has anybody, I can understand what you're saying. I can understand conceptually that it's a right-of-way issue. I don't know where you would stop that line, meaning like there are, anyway. I guess I'm just saying, has anybody holistically looked at this? Is there something somewhere to look at?
So, can I just? Sure. Because I don't think I want to go down this rabbit hole right now, but what I will say is it's kind of like paid parking. It's a third rail issue, and we could certainly bring it up again. It doesn't seem to be in line with our focus for the rest of this year in terms of our 4 priorities. But I will say, you know, I feel like there's a split feeling about who should be responsible for sidewalks. So should we talk about it again? Yes. Should we put it on the agenda soon? I don't think so. But I know that, I think from the village's perspective, Josue and Johnny would love for us to come back to it. I'm not sure it's a this year thing.
And to be super clear, I wasn't trying to open it. I honestly didn't know it was that big of a third rail. I wasn't trying to open it up as a council thing. I was specifically asking about it I was saying the idea came up. didn't seem like it went anywhere. I wondered if it was something that a committee could look at, because there's obviously work that committees do that isn't things that are taking our time. So we could, I'm not trying to start anything.
But no, I mean, it is totally appropriate to bring it up, and we should talk about it. I just, maybe it's a 2024 thing.
Okay.
Uh-oh, Johnny. All right.
Yeah. Brian knows that both Johnny and myself would love to talk about it.
I know you guys want to talk about
I
it.
actually think it is very appropriate that we talk about it before the end of the year. It is infrastructure, and it would greatly be able to reduce the street budget if I didn't have to put $50,000 into sidewalks. We have done it. It was actually 2012 that this was changed, so it's actually like 11 years. We have spent a lot of money into it. It needs to go back to the homeowners, and let's take that $50,000 and move it to curbs for next year.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't disagree with you. I was on the side of, that it should be, homeowners' responsibility. I just, it's going to be a big issue. It's a big policy thing.
And I'll just jump in since my name was mentioned, and I'm a homeowner who recently had sidewalks done, and I like my sidewalks. And what I did say in that discussion was, I feel like the village has done their job, and I'll take responsibility going forward. I'm hoping that the trees stop growing, or I die before it becomes an issue. But yeah, because it was such a, I mean, when I moved in, they were horrible, and once they were done, it's just, I love it, and I don't suspect it would be something that would happen in the near term, but theoretically, I could see being okay with taking responsibility going forward.
Okay, well, and again, if folks want to bring it on the agenda, like, I'm not going to oppose it. I just, just keep in mind, it's a big issue.
Yes, it is.
Okay, anything else? Yeah, Gavin.
Just something that I'm not sure would get caught in the planning commission notes, just to make everybody aware of. Just that we, I think, sort of started or continued a conversation at our most recent planning commission meeting, sort of thinking about questions around some of the, bigger picture sort of planning issues, like, thinking about how do we want to grow, thinking about, I'm honestly, sorry, I should have written it down before, I'm blanking on some of the other items. But I guess just to say that we've brought it up here a couple times, it's starting to come up in the planning commission a little bit when there's been space. The agendas have been pretty light the last couple months, so just letting folks know that there's been some interest at the planning commission of talking about some of these issues. At our next meeting, in case anybody's interested, Meg is going to come in and do an overview of the comprehensive plan, which I think would be useful for everybody here potentially, and I can commit to reporting back on. And then that was going to be the beginning of sort of opening up what other kind of bigger picture discussions we might want to have. So just a flag that maybe a little more, a little bit of a different kind of next planning commission meeting that's you might have interest in, and again, I will report back, but you're certainly welcome to come.
And Gavin, I want to say thanks for taking the lead on that, because I know that growth discussion is, you've brought that up, and I've been trying to think about how we tee that up. I meant to say, Johnny, when I highlighted thinking more strategically about infrastructure, that I think that's a nice tie-in to the growth discussion. And so anyway, I want to be intentional about that, but I think you're right that we need to discuss that. Okay, anything else?
Mary Ann just asked, I'll say that's August the 8th at 6 to 8 p.m. for anybody's, or 6.
15.
Huh?
August 15th.
Oh, that's right, because it's the weird one. August the 15th. This is a good time to change my calendar too. Thank you.
All right, August 15th. Okay, anything else? All right, so future agenda. So we will not be having a meeting the first Monday of August. Any thoughts about that third Monday in August?
So you got the MOU coming back. I'm putting down, and we'll see how it plays out in the next couple of weeks, but maybe a report out on the traffic calming measures discussion. You may
Yes.
or may not be there. Strategic plan.
Maybe a
for supporting
report on the
infill.
gardens, the neighborhood gardens.
Yeah, that'd be
something like
nice.
that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I would just throw out, we're going to have our next housing committee meeting tomorrow, I believe. And again, this is just in the category of like, if we have thinner agendas and that feels like there's space, I think that could be one where it might not be bad to have a few more than sort of 5 minutes to get feedback from council members since everybody's expressed interest in it.
Yeah, let's make space for that for sure. Okay, anything else? Okay, and I imagine in 3 weeks, a lot of stuff's gonna come up? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying there was a hand.
Oh,
Do you have time for public citizen feedback?
we did, but come on up since you got here a little bit late.
Oh, your schedule is.
Yeah, I mean, we might have like been a little bit more efficient than usual, so, yes.
Well, congratulations. I appreciate all the work you're doing, and it's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
I'm Marion Stewart. Some of you have heard from me from Public Works. I live on Dayton Street, 352, and I'm greatly impacted by the new curbing, the lines, the yellow lines. I bought a house 2020, and it had parking in front, and now I don't, and that's huge. I live on Dayton Street, 2 houses in from the intersection with Stafford, which is starting Stafford on Dayton going out, is where the multimodal is going in. The state says that no parking from 20 feet from the intersection. I'm 2 houses in, and I have now a bright yellow line, no parking on either side of the street. What that has done, number one, is it's eliminated parking for me, and I have 2 handicapped friends who visit often. I have to park on the street so they have access, but now I can't. And I'm also going to have construction. Hopefully, my house was built in 1881. It's not new, but I'm going to need access coming up. I don't have access now. But most importantly, it's created just a speedway because folks see yellow lines on either side, no parking, and they are flying down Dayton Street. 2 cars have been hit that have been parked since then. I've about gotten run over walking with my dog, and a cat got hit the other day. They're speeding, they're flying. My bedroom is feet off of Dayton Street on the 2nd floor. There's trucks, there's cars, there's everything. What I would like to do, to see the village do, is put a white line for parking on the side of Dayton Street that now has parking all the way, so you actually effectively narrow visually the through path. There's plenty of room. It's wide enough for 3, 2 travels in 1 park. Put a white line for parking, extend it through my house or by my house and possibly partially into the next house, and you still have plenty of room before Stafford. Also, replace the speed limit signs, 25, that blew down in the storm. It was in front of my neighbor's house, Rebecca Potter. She couldn't be here tonight. She was trying to, but she's couldn't be here. Replace the 25 signs. Is 25 the next block too? There's not a sign saying so. Also, you can put bicycle emblems on the street saying it's for bikes, and put 25, like white paint, so that people see that it's 25, because right now trucks come down. There's a sign at Dayton Street coming in, big trucks can't come. They come all the time. They're speeding starting at 4:30 in the morning, and it wakes me up. It's just like, if they go 25, you can hardly hear them. But right now, it's horrible. And what you've done is taken the parking from my house. My next door neighbor has a lot of traffic parking on the street. She's been hit twice, or her kids have, the cars. And you're pushing us all the way back down. My handicapped friends can't do that. And I bought the house. I'm 2 houses in from Stafford. Why is there no parking in front of my house anymore?
Okay, we're at 3 minutes.
Okay.
But that's what I'd like to do, and you're talking about more parking in the city, when street fair, all this stuff, people park in front of the house. It's great. No complaints. I want parking there. And put parking back. So I would like to see that. I'd like to see 25 mile per hour speed limits up and markings for the parking lane all the way up that block of Dayton, and 25 and bike markings on the street. I think those are calming measures, because if you put in the rumble strips, I'm gonna be one complaining because it's right outside my bedroom. And that's so not good at 4:30 in the morning.
Right.
And I love your idea for joints for fireworks, because I'm a dog owner.
All right, thank you.
So,
Yeah, appreciate
thank
you
you.
coming, all right?
And I appreciate y'all listening to that, because that's really important.
Yep,
And all my neighbors would be here too, but some of them are getting ready to travel.
yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So my understanding is the parking hasn't changed due to this project, but that'll be something that Josue can report on at our next meeting, and we'll follow up, and Rebecca will have a chance to come and speak to us. But my understanding is the parking hasn't changed. We definitely want to think about traffic calming, and so.
Traffic calming's on the agenda, right?
Yes,
Okay.
so we'll get an update on all those things, so thank you.
Has
Yeah.
changed.
Okay, well, we'll follow up on that, so, okay? All right, anything else? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, yeah. Yes. So moved. Yes, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. And Judy, have a great vacation.
Yeah.
Thanks to Lori Asklin for giving us the first August off.
Indeed,
And,
indeed.
yeah, thank you.